Cool guys, so welcome back to another review. Today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. So Spider-Man Far From Home is the second Spider-Man movie in the MCU. It is once again directed by John Watts, and Tom Holland once again plays Spider-Man, and he does a really amazing job. So in this movie, the basic plotline is Peter Parker is on a school vacation, and while he's on vacation, he encounters a whole bunch of obstacles and a whole bunch of difficult situations that demand his attention. And I have to say, I think this is a really solid and fun Spider-Man movie. There's a lot to love about this movie. One of the things I definitely appreciated more is they definitely focus a little bit more on the whole high school dynamic and the whole high school group as a whole, and the situation and the high school interactions, which I felt like were obviously there in Spider-Man Homecoming. But I was kind of hoping for a little bit more of that in the first Spider-Man MCU movie, and I feel like in this movie there's a lot more of that, which I did enjoy. So I was kind of happy to see that they focus more on the high school dynamic and the high school group, and the interactions, and Peter Parker's interaction as a high schooler. He's obviously still quite a young superhero in this universe, so him interacting with his classmates and the world around him as a high schooler I thought was really interesting, and I'm glad that they dedicated more time in this movie to do so. And another thing I really enjoyed about this movie was Zendaya as MJ. And I will be honest with you, I wasn't that much of a fan of her in Spider-Man Homecoming. I kind of felt in that first one she was kind of very patriarchal, and I don't know, she just didn't really suit the image I had of MJ in my head. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing necessarily, but I just didn't see her as a very well developed character in the movie specifically. And I didn't really care much for the dynamic between her and Peter Parker. But I'm glad to say that in Far From Home, that relationship is explored a lot more, and actually left the movie really enjoying a character, which I was very surprised about because I wasn't initially expecting that. I thought she was a really well developed character in this movie, and I'm actually quite excited to see how that develops in the future Marvel installments going forward. And if you've been living under a rock and you did not know this, Jake Gyllenhaal plays Mysterio, and he kills it. He kills it as Mysterio. I loved Jake Gyllenhaal in this movie. He has great chemistry with Tom Holland. You would have definitely seen that if you've been watching some of the press interviews and videos and stuff like that for this movie. They've just got a really good dynamic with each other.
Don't wanna miss the way you looked at me before. Makes me want you even more. If you want to, I'm up for a kiss. I know it's tough. Don't let anybody tell you.
And if you guys did not know this beforehand, Jake Gyllenhaal was actually initially going to replace Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 2 because of Tobey Maguire's back injury. So just a little fun fact. So yeah, to see him actually in the Marvel Universe now, in a Spider-Man movie, it was kind of fun to see because so seeing him in this movie play a Spider-Man character was really interesting, and I thought he absolutely smashed it. Mysterio is probably one of the hardest characters from the Spider-Man Rogues Gallery to adapt to screen, and I thought they did a really good job with him, and he was a very interesting character. There's a lot of funny moments in this movie and a lot of jokes that work really well. However, there are also jokes that do not work and they fall completely flat, and I don't think anyone is going to find them funny, to be honest. There were some really sort of cringy joke moments, and when I say cringy, I don't mean like it was funny cringy. It was just like, ugh, did that really make it into the final cut of the movie? So there's a few moments like that I don't know, this didn't really land at all for me, and I know for some of the people I spoke to afterwards, some of the jokes didn't land for them either, so I'm curious to see if those are the same jokes. There's also moments where some of the exposition in this movie feels really forced, and it sort of feels like the movie's trying to shove information down your throats, and I understand why these Marvel movies kind of have to do that now because of how big the universe has gotten with regards to just this franchise, but it did feel a little bit forced, and I don't know, it was some really cool stuff that happens, but at the same time I feel like it was kind of forced, and it's not terrible and it's not as bad as some of the previous Marvel movies, but it just does feel a little bit forced at times. Another really awesome thing about this movie is Spider-Man himself. I think they've nailed it now. His movements while swinging, his fighting style, it really feels unique now to Tom Holland and to the Spider-Man in this universe, and it feels really dynamic and fresh and innovative. I liked how they used Spider-Man in this movie. I know there was a lot of positive response after the Spider-Man PS4 game with just how Spider-Man was moving and how he was paying sort of tribute to the previous Spider-Man movie adaptations in that game, just with regards to the way he moves. And then I know some of the negative comments about Spider-Man Homecoming were that Spider-Man he didn't really swing around a lot. He wasn't really being that sort of classic Spider-Man through New York City. I don't feel like it was that sort of movie. But at the same time, I could kind of understand where fans were coming from, where they were just wanting to see more of Spider-Man sort of being the classic Spider-Man. And I feel like this movie we definitely get that a bit more. And then just in closing, I was kind of worried that taking Spider-Man out of New York was going to be a bad idea. And it was going to sort of take away for the sort of classic Spider-Man character that I've had in my head for so long. I'm glad to say it doesn't do that though. I feel like taking him out of New York was actually quite refreshing. And he's obviously put in some different and difficult situations outside of New York, which was also interesting because we don't really ever get to see much of that besides the massive Avengers movies. So it was really nice to see that, and I won't lie, I had a really, really good time with this movie. And then, of course, remember to stay for the post-credit scenes. There's some stuff happening in those that are going to be quite significant going forward, I feel. So definitely stay for those post-credit scenes. But I had a really good time with this movie. I feel like it's very strong. It feels very fresh for the Spider-Man character. And I think this is a good segue into what the future of the MCU is going to be. And I was very happy with Spider-Man Far From Home. Guys, if you've seen Spider-Man Far From Home, let me know what you thought about it in the comments down below. I would love to hear your thoughts. And then also just want to say thank you so much. Last week this channel did extremely well with some of the Netflix reviews. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for whoever watched that and commented and liked the video. You guys helped make those videos semi-viral for me. It's not a huge amount of views, but it's way more than what I usually get. So thank you so much if you watched those videos and liked and commented. You helped so much with that. So thank you very much. Guys, let me know what you thought about Spider-Man in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please keep the comment section spoiler free. I'm going to be posting a spoiler review shortly after this one, so you can comment spoilers on that one. I'm also going to be posting a post credits and after credits scene video later on today as well. So thank you so much. Press the bell to be notified for those videos if you're keen to watch them. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this. I'll see you guys next time. Stranger Things review coming soon as well, I promise. Okay, bye. Love you lots. I'm just talking, blah blah blah.